Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome to the Funtik kitchen table. I've got a little bit of a different background today. So for those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Lindsey Funtik, and I'm the coordinator of volunteer ministries at Ashland First United Methodist Church. And every Thursday, I hop on here to share a little bit about what the Lord is teaching me and some of my devotional thoughts for this week. So welcome, come make yourself at home. This week, I have been thinking about The Hobbit. So for anybody who has spent any amount of time with me at all, you know that I'm a nerd, and I wear that badge very proudly. So if you ever need to talk about nerdy things, please let me know. So it comes as no surprise that for my birthday, my husband got me a Lord of the Rings themed map of Ohio, which is beautiful and hanging on our wall now. And we watched the third Hobbit movie. And there is a scene in The Hobbit, it's the Battle of Five Armies. I'm with you if you believe that it shouldn't have been stretched into a trilogy, but I still enjoy them. But there's a scene in the Battle of Five Armies that always reminds me of Jesus. And I really believe that for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, theology is everywhere. So today I won't be unpacking scripture, I will be unpacking a scene from a movie. So for those of you who have not seen The Hobbit or who need a bit of a refresher, in this particular scene, it's the kind of the beginning of the third movie, and read the book too, by the way. But the beginning of the third movie, the dragon Smaug has been awoken from his nap underneath blankets of gold, and he is upset. And as kind of retaliation for that, being woken up by a burglar, aka Bilbo Baggins, he goes to nearby lake town and just starts wreaking havoc, and there's destruction everywhere. It's this fishing village where it's a bunch of wooden buildings on stilts, and they don't really stand much of a chance. So as everybody's running and scattering and the head of the town is trying to escape with all of the gold, there's one person, Bard, who goes to the top of the watchtower to try to take down Smaug. So Bard is shooting his arrows and none of them are hitting because dragons have very intense scales. But there's one kind of arrow, and there's only one that can take down Smaug, and Bard's son brings it to him at the top of the watchtower. So that in and of itself is this really brave act, and Bard only has one chance to take down the enemy. But Smaug wipes out the top of the watchtower, takes out Bard's bow, and it's just left with his son, this arrow, and him. And so, as a way of being resourceful, Bard uses his son's shoulder as like the resting place for the arrow, and they're standing face to face, and he pulls back and shoots it over his son's shoulder to hit Smaug. So it's this really, really powerful scene that always brings tears to my eyes because it reminds me of Jesus. And I described it, but I encourage you watch the movie, maybe look it up on YouTube. But there are three things that I pull from this scene in this movie. So the first, we have Bard and his son, and Bard is using his son in his purpose of defeating Smaug. So this is not a perfect parallel because God does not need to use us, but God does choose to use us. So because Bard's son came to him, said, "Here I am being brave, I'm taking this step of faith," Bard ends up being able to use his presence there to accomplish to save the day, as it were. And we worship a God who is already victorious, but we also have this mission in the world to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to share the love of God with others, to invite them into the same relationships that we as believers get to have with God and with one another. And thankfully, God uses his people, the church, to do that. And so when I see Bard using his son's shoulder, resting the arrow there, and choosing that as the course of action, I'm just reminded of the fact that God uses us. He doesn't need to, but he wants to, and he invites us into the story. So the first thing that we learn from The Hobbit today is that our Father uses us, and that's a loving, loving, beautiful thing. And I love being part of that story. So the second thing is that we have our own Smaug. So at the end of the second movie, Smaug is flying toward Lake Town and he goes, "I am fire, I am death." And it's this really terrifying beast. And in this particular scene, Smaug is behind Bard's son. Bard is looking over his shoulder at the dragon. And there's fire everywhere. He's gigantic. And he's whispering all of these lies like, "You can't defeat me. I can't," like trying to intimidate them with his words as well as his presence. And it just reminds me that we have our own Smaug. First Peter says that we have an enemy, the devil, who is like a roaring lion seeking to devour. And when I look at that scene, I just see the chaos around Bard and his son, and I am reminded that there are forces working against us in this world. Again, God is victorious. We already know who won. But this side of paradise, we're still living in that brokenness, and we get to participate in the kingdom here and now, but the kingdom is still coming in its fullness. So just like Bard and his son had to face this dragon, so too do we have an enemy who is present and who is also can be scary and is a terrifying presence, but at the same time, he's nothing but, smoke and lies. And so the third thing, so God uses us, we have our own Smaug, but we can fix our eyes upon our Father. Like I said, I always tear up when I watch this scene, and I'm tearing up talking about it because as Bard has his arrow resting on his son's shoulder, ready to defeat the enemy, his son starts to kind of look around because he senses the dragon behind him. And Bard just goes, "Look at me, just look at me." And I love, sorry, the Hobbit makes me emotional. I love that because we have a Father who is accomplishing his good work in the world, who is defeating darkness, taking it on bravely, inviting us into that adventure. But we have a focal point on which we can zero. We can zero in on Jesus. And it reminds me of the song, "Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus." It says, "Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will go strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace." And so just like Bard says, "Look at me. Don't look at your enemy. Don't look at the fire burning around you. Don't even look at the fact that there is a giant iron arrow waiting on your shoulder. Look at me. Look in my eyes." And I really believe that that is what the Lord is inviting us into today and every day. This side of paradise, we will face a lot of difficult things, be it, a dragon named Smaug, who is fire, who is death, or a global pandemic, or anxiety about the future, or lack of clarity in the face of heartache or trauma. All of these things are very real, and there's an enemy who whispers lies to us about them. But as we are seeking to step out in faith and live bravely, live in light of Jesus, we can look in his eyes and know that we are loved and we are safe. Our God is victorious, and he invites us into it. We are his children, and Smaug is no match for the love of our Father. So, with that, I encourage you today to remember that God can use you in his plan. You are gifted, you are his. He desires to have you alongside him. And though we have our own Smaug in the world, an enemy who whispers lies and causes fire and mayhem, we have a Father on whom we can into his eyes we can look and know that all will be well, and all manner of things shall be well. With that, I encourage you to remember those things, look into his eyes, and also keep your eyes peeled for theology wherever you go, because the truth of God is present everywhere. Friends, First United Methodist Church, I love you. I'm thinking of you. I'm praying for you. Stay safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.